Over 100 years of fire suppression and forest overgrowth means that catastrophic wildfires are now commonplace throughout the American West, coming dangerously close to villages, towns, and cities. In the year 2000, the Cerro Grande fire engulfed the city of Los Alamos, New Mexico. The aftermath included a cloudburst, washing tens of thousands of cubic yards of ash, soot, and debris down the recently burnt slopes and destroying its reservoir overnight. This kind of devastation to watersheds and drinking water systems has disastrous effects on a community, impacting its economy and severely hampering its ability to provide vital services.
The Cerro Grande fire that occurred in Los Alamos in 2000 was a real wake-up call for this community. Here in Santa Fe, this had a big effect on us, and we realized quickly that our own water supply was even at greater risk than the water supply in Los Alamos.
The Santa Fe watershed is the lifeblood of the city.
Events up here could have a very profound impact upon the city itself.
Without the water, there would be no Santa Fe.
What this gauge does is measure the amount of stream flow in the Santa Fe River. And it's really important for us to understand how much stream flow there is, because our water supply for the city of Santa Fe depends on this river for half of our water in a good year. So for example, in a normal year, this river supplies around 4,900 acre-feet of water, and that has to be allocated among the many users downstream.
The scenario where we would lose the water is one in which there's a catastrophic fire in the watershed, our reservoirs are filled up with ash and sediment, and we can't rely on the river water for a number of years, maybe as long as 10 years.
If we look at July and August as the peak travel months for Santa Fe, having a situation where there was no water or where water was impaired somehow would be devastating to Santa Fe, because that's the key earning months for not only the hotels, but for the shops, the restaurants, the museums, and all of the other attractions here in Santa Fe. They depend on those months for the tourist traffic to come in and to spend those dollars, that hard currency that keeps them going throughout the year. Visitors account for about 40% of the economy in Santa Fe. The expenditures of people staying in paid accommodations exceeded $323 million last year.
We need to invest somewhat in the protection and maintenance of the land conditions up there.
We have to be very careful in here, and we do things much differently than if we were out, someplace where there was no one around, where there were no people. Here within the Santa Fe watershed, we are acutely aware of two things that limit us and that challenge us to doing anything up here. One is the soils themselves, because we want to maintain the organics on top of the soil. The other thing that we're finding more and more is a concern with our smoke in the aftermath or during our prescribed burns. We have an urban area at the mouth of a canyon where at night the smoke tends to all settle and go down canyon into the community. But what we can do is take measures to try to mitigate that. And it's made this project a major challenge to implement.
We found in the Santa Fe watershed, after decades of not really doing any kind of treatments, that we needed to start with some mechanical thinning and then come back in follow-up treatments. Because even though the conditions we wanted to get to were from 1,000 trees per acre down to 20 or 50, we couldn't get there in one jump. Right now we've done the piling and thinning in over 5,000 acres. We have done the broadcast burning by years. We've been able to do about between 500 and 1,000 acres per year of burning over the top of some of those other treatments. That's a pace we want to continue into the future. By about 500 to 1,000 is kind of what we're shooting for.
The smoke from a prescribed fire is much less than the kind of smoke that's generated by a catastrophic fire. We need these prescribed fires. They're an important management treatment for the watershed. They're important to keep our water supply productive and functioning for us.
We're not trying to create a lot of intense fire. We want to hold on to the trees that are here, and we just want to clean up the ground fields, some of the ladder fields, and get that stuff kind of burned down. And it's not totally consuming all the pine litter because it is in the watershed and we want that sediment to stay put. We're reducing the fuel loading, which is giving the trees more vigor, which is making the ecosystem a little healthier. But at the same time, we're reducing the fire hazards so that Santa Fe's drinking water isn't full of ash.
And the continued work up here is all about preserving the water supply for the city of Santa Fe.
This is the cheapest or the least expensive water for the city to treat. We're ensuring the health of this system for posterity.